Hey guys, Sonic's here. With Pokemon Sun and Moon a little over 6 months away whilst making this video, it's time to look at which possible Mega Evolutions we might see in the 7th generation. However, before we do that, I have a confession to make. When X and Y were announced and Mega Evolution was first revealed, I was not on board with the idea. The idea behind it was interesting, and whilst I do think the implementation of Mega Evolution into the series overall has been a success, there's little doubting that Game Freak need to address some balancing issues. The problem I had with it was the Pokemon themselves. Why were already powerful Pokemon getting Megastones? Mewtwo, Blaziken, Garchomp, Gyarados, to name just a few, are already powerful Pokemon. Sure, we did have some previously underwhelming Pokemon such as Mawile and Banette get some attention, but still, the majority were not lacking in power. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire did focus more on previously lesser Pokemon stat-wise, but we still saw Pokemon such as Groudon and Rayquaza get their own versions of Mega Evolutions. What I want overall from Generation 7 is a more balanced metagame, and if we are to get new Mega Evolutions, which I'm sure we will, I want them to focus on Pokemon that don't really have much to offer a trainer right now. Sure, they may be cute and popular, but when it comes to battling, forget about it. I'd like to see Pokemon brought up to a level where they can actually hold their own. Game Freak has done this in the past with older Pokemon, so it's time to do it again. There are a ton of Pokemon today that I could have put on this list, but I want to show you guys my top 5 picks on who should get their own Megastone and why. So sit back, stop EV training, and enjoy. Number 5. Sunflora. I'm always open to using new Pokemon, and for the most part, I'm a believer of all Pokemon being useful depending on the situations. No Pokemon is bad overall. Well, Sunflora, you really test me, do you know that? I have a history with Sunflora. When I first played through Silver version all the way back in the day, I decided to use a Sunkern after I won a Sunstone in the bug catching contest. It was pretty early in the game, so its fairly decent special attack combined with Ingrain was really useful, especially against Whitney. However, it soon became apparent this Pokemon was not going to be any better. I did in fact remain stubborn, so continued use of Sunflora until Mount Silver. Sunflora vs Red's Charizard. Oh boy. Sunflora is a pretty poor Pokemon all things considered. With a base out of 425, it leaves a lot to be desired. Sunflora's best role is a special attacker whilst holding some sort of boosting item like Choice Specs or Life Orb. Its abilities don't do it any favours, though Solar Power is probably the best. It could have been revitalised in Generation 5 when hidden abilities were implemented, but it sadly got stuck with Early Bird. Sunflora is outclassed by non-fully evolved Pokemon like Tangela, which is just pretty sad if you ask me. If there ever were a case where Game Freak needed to rescue a Pokemon from obscurity, it's Sunflora. Number 4. Flygon. Flygon did apparently meet the criteria for Mega Evolution when X and Y were announced, but according to Game Freak, they had artist block when thinking of the design. It's apparent that the thought is there, but will they actually go through with it? It's probably a good thing they didn't go for any old design, as Flygon's a fan favourite. In contrast to Sunflora, Flygon is actually a very useful Pokemon. It's fast and it hits pretty hard. The problem, however, is that since its introduction in Generation 3, more and more Pokemon do what it does, but better. It needs a boost but also a twist to make it stand out. The first Bug Dragon type would be a very fitting tribute to a popular Pokemon. If Game Freak is still struggling to find their creative side for Mega Flygon, take a look at Deviant art, some of the designs look amazing. Number 3. Tropius. Tropius is a Pokemon that needs some TLC from Game Freak. Blessed with Harvest ability, Tropius is a very fun Pokemon to use. Its stats, however, are painfully average. It's not often I dismiss a Pokemon, but unfortunately Tropius' redeeming qualities are few and far between. A Mega Form would really help, and with a boost in speed and possibly a better typing, it would really make a viable option. Unfortunately, outside of its hidden ability Harvest, its abilities don't really make it stand out. Poor speed even under the sun, nor does it possess a decent special attack stat to take advantage of Solar Power. It's sadly outclassed by many non-fully evolved Pokemon, so it makes the number 3 place on my list. Number 2. Dunsparce. It would be easy to make this list and plaster every non-evolving Pokemon on it. We have to face facts though. Some Pokemon are never going to be the majestic competitive ready beasts like others. Dunsparce could arguably be placed in this category, but honestly, there's a lot of potential for this Pokemon. Its move pool is something to be admired and incredibly varied. Roost, Glare, Stealth Rock, Headbutt, Ancient Power, Double Edge to name just a few. Sadly though, its overall stats leave it behind in later game. It comes off as wanting to be a jack of all trades, but often ends up being a master of none. It's an awkward non-evolving Pokemon that has some potential with Serene Grace, but by the time you've collected a few badges, you'll be left wanting more from it. Show it some love, Game Freak. Number 1. Lumineon. It's not uncommon to hear, "I forgot this thing existed." Poor Lumineon. Since its introduction in Generation 4, the Lumineon line has really failed to stand out. With an incredibly shallow move pool, average stats, along with what many would consider a very generic design, Lumineon is long overdue for some attention. Lumineon's role rarely exceeds entry hazard removal, though it may have some other roles with access to moves such as Tailwind. I have to admit I really can't think of a design for this, or even what its type could be in a Mega form. All I know is that Lumineon is a really forgotten Pokemon, and for that reason alone, it's getting the #1 spot on my list. Thanks for watching this video guys, please feel free to let me know your thoughts below on which Pokemon need a Mega Evolution in the upcoming Generation 7. Be sure to check out my other videos, and if you liked what you saw here today, consider subscribing, as next week I'm going to be taking a look at the Lock Capsule, never released for Generation 4 or 5. Until next time, take care.